So this is John's report. First, the speed, caliber speed. This is elite men's average, including professional players, college players, and teaching professionals. So the average is about 110 miles per hour, and yours is currently about 90 miles per hour.
Yeah, kind of what I figured when I've used stuff to measure.
And that this is normalized to your body height. So for your body height, you have a similar deficit here. And overall, your swing time is less than 1,000 milliseconds, which is good. So I prefer faster backswing so that overall, relatively short swing time. Slow backswing causes a lot of trouble. But if it's less than 1,000 milliseconds, then you're a bit on the faster side. But one thing, if you look at the shape of the caliber speed graph here, so from here to here, this is the backswing.
Okay.
It's almost symmetric, right? So about the line drawn in the middle here.
Good or not good?
So this is almost symmetric.
Okay.
But actually, I want to see the peak value more on this side here. So initially, you can start slowly, but then speed up here, make it faster here. So that when you have a fast motion here, then you will have a continuous transition to the downswing here. So initially, you can go slow, but then active motion at the top, then connect it to the downswing, then you can increase the speed a bit more here. But currently it's almost symmetric. That means you're just moving from here to the top. You're accelerating and then decelerating with similar pace, and then stop and then change the direction. But if you emphasize the connection between the backswing to downswing, then this peak should be more happening on the right side here.
Okay.
So initially increase slowly, but then you reach a peak value and then quickly slow this down and then change the direction.
Should the peak be any higher than that? Is that reasonable?
The caliber speed in the backswing is not well correlated to caliber speed at impact, or the angular velocity, rotational velocity of the body. Those are correlated to caliber speed. So it's important to turn the body fast in the backswing. Okay. And then this is the top view. The blue arrow shows the direction of the club head motion. And this large rectangle, this is the swing plane, calculated from the club head motion.
To the right.
Yeah, it's slightly outward. But this is a slightly outward swing plane is normal because you tend to hit up in the driver condition. And it's on the average, it's about slightly less than 4 degrees outward here. But your hands here, this smaller rectangle is the hand motion plane. This is a bit more outward than this here. So on the average, it's 6.6 degrees. But they are not that different here. You have about around the 3-degree difference, which is not too bad. So in terms of direction, generally, you move your hands and also the club head slightly outward. But then at impact, the club head velocity is more aligned toward the target line. So this is okay. So in the driver condition, again, because you tend to hit up, so the swing plane is slightly aligned outward. But in the iron condition, it will be more toward the target. Now this is the swing plane. In the down the line view, this straight line is the swing plane, calculated from the club head trajectory here. And this is a bit too steep. So your average slope is 50.2. But for your height, about 47 degrees. And then, so when you have a steep swing plane, that means you're using arms a lot. You're pulling the club down. So you don't let the club shallow, but rather
So as
just pull.
far as where I'm getting, like, just say my hands relative to my shoulder, they are they're too high.
So
Is
here,
it steep or
here, one thing we see here is that at
a
the
little laid off? I've always been a little laid off.
at the top here, this is top of action, is laid off.
Yeah,
So
I've been that way before.
laid off, and then the next action is let me add the hand pad here. So from here, you're pulling the handle down, okay, pulling the handle down, and then when you have
hand
a
path be more directly at the ball.
so you see you're the hand pad is about 9 to 10 degrees steeper than the swing plane.
Okay.
So we expect the steeper swing plane here.
Okay.
However, what happens is that whether on the way down you're using your body to start the downswing versus you're pulling it down using the arms. So when you use the arms, then you tend to have a steeper swing plane.
Okay.
When you use the body, then you have time to drop the club head. So it becomes a bit flatter than this, but because with the layoff position, but then you keep pulling the hands down. With that, you have a bit steeper swing plane here.
Okay.
Then the typical for your height.
Okay.
And then after that, here you see, and then flipping. So this is why you tend to have a bit outer swing plane. But now, so here your body tends to stand up here. You have extension toward the end of the swing.
And I've had that. Well, when I first started using video, I noticed that I was extending, and I, did drills with the chair behind me and stuff to try and stay on the line. And I got better, but I never got rid of it
But
completely.
because of your issues in the spine and
Right.
everything, so I don't know whether it's a good idea to try to maintain the axis here. So if you maintain the axis, then the rotation will be. So if this is the axis here, the downswing should be going this way here
Right.
instead of this here.
Right.
But whether I don't know whether it's coming from your physical
I
limitation.
don't know. I mean, I was standing up before I had any of the back surgeries. I mean, that's when I first saw it. It was before that. But
And also, generally, when you pull the handle down, then this happens, because the force is always acting both directions. So when your body is pulling the arms down, the arms are pulling the body upward. So with that, you tend to stand up like this. So you have to turn the body, and then with this throw,
Let those hands drop into position.
if you just turn and throw, then you can maintain this. But if you have a tendency of pulling this down, naturally your body stands up. Yeah. So
if I'm turning and throwing, then.
so generally, have the image of somebody holding your hairs here, so that your head cannot move that much. Then you have to turn about the spine axis here. If this is held here, you turn. So then your face has to turn about 45 degrees here. Turn about 45 degrees. And then if you lift your chin a little bit, it will help this motion here. This motion. So have the image of turning about your spine axis. Or sometimes you can hold.
And I don't know if you've seen it. You probably have, but historically, when I would do video, my head drifts off the ball in the backswing a fair amount.
So another way to sort of practice this is hold here and then try to just to turn the body here. Because this is constrained here, you cannot extend your body. So, but just to have the image of, again, somebody holding your hairs here, so you are basically turning about the spine axis instead of moving the spine axis. So it's a bit stiff here. And then so the red line shows the whole body center of mass motion here. So initially, your center of mass is here. Let me just show the center of mass motion. So this is center of mass motion. So at this point, the center of mass is located here. And then it moves quite a bit in the backswing. But the problem is that at this position here, you will see that your upper body is leaning away. So in order to do this, what happens is your pelvis has to, so essentially in the backswing, while you are maintaining this lean here, you are essentially spinning here. So that's why the body is leaning away, your pelvis is more going this way, and you have a lot of pelvis turn here. But again, if somebody is holding your hair here and you try to turn about this axis here, you have to turn this way.
Okay.
Then the hip goes high up here, the pelvis moves away. You are assuming slight reverse pivot posture here. But if you spin, then this happens. When you spin, it's hard to use the right leg when you start the downswing. And then so you cannot use the ground that way. So again, hold it here and then turn, using the legs actively here. Turn. And then also, so once the center mass moves away here and goes up here, it has to drop more than the initial position here. But it's not dropping that much. It's simply pretty much coming back to the similar level here. Because the center mass is moving along this direction and going up here and then coming down here. It's similar here.
And is that like when you see golfers squat before impact?
So when it's called the push and unweight, but when you push the ground hard, then the center mass goes up. And then when you don't push hard enough, it's called the unweighting. With that, your body drops. So it's not intentional squatting here. You're not intentionally trying to sit down, but rather just let your body drop. Let your body drop, then you can kick again. But because you're just pulling here, the body is going up, then it's hard to drop your body. So you have a good push on this side, and then let it drop, and then kick here. Then you can use both the legs. But then, so when you see this kind of pattern, then in the downswing, you have problem with your lead leg because you're just pulling and then standing up here. And then let's go to the pelvis motion. So this red line here is the pelvis rotation. Okay. So initially your pelvis is almost neutral here.
Okay.
So it's pointing to the target direction here, neutral. And then from there, it's rotating rightward here to this point here. But this is when you have the most rotation, and it exceeds man's average here.
Okay.
So you tend to go a bit more. It's because your main is spinning instead of rotating about the spine axis. And then on the left side, you're not turning enough here. This is impact. Part of the reason is because you are swinging to the right. Your hand motion plane and then swing plane are all outward. That means you are not turning this way enough. Okay? But
Okay.
so you are more turning to the right in the backswing, but not not similarly in the left side here in the downswing.
So would turning less in the backswing result in turning more in the downswing?
So if you turn less, then try to turn more that way in the downswing, then you can have a more balanced turn here. You have similar turn this way, and then at impact you have similar turn here. But it's easy to overturn if you just spin around in the backswing. So you have to change the way you do the backswing motion instead of just the spinning. And then this blue line here, blue line shows the pelvis lateral tilt. Okay. So up to this point, you have a continuous lateral tilt here. So left side is lower, right side is higher, and it goes to this position. But from here, the slope changes, as if you have a two-stage motion here. So what happens is, up to this point, it's more spinning motion. Your body is just turning as one unit, and then try to do something after that. So there is a change in the slope here. So the lateral tilt shows that you have two-stage motion. But if you have, again, if you turn about the spine axis here, you have a continuous lateral tilt from all the way to
And what
the
would
peak.
that line look like?
Then it should be more continuous here, and then go this way.
Okay.
But you have change in the slope here. That means that you have a two-stage motion. And then this blue line here, up and down motion of the pelvis. You see, it goes down up to this point, then it pretty much stays there. So there is change in motion here, instead of continuous going down and then kick here. So there is a change in motion at this point here. It's because initially you have a spinning motion, then try to do something here. And then, as you can see in the blue line shows up and down motion here. This up and down motion should be also continuous, and then when you go up, it has to go higher here. So the pelvis, your pelvis starts from here, but it ends lower than the initial position. That means you're not pushing the ground that well in the downswing. So it goes down here, then goes up. At impact, the pelvic center mass should stay higher than your initial pelvis position.
I played for a long time before anybody even talked about pushing off the ground or ground reaction forces. And I've never really fully understood.
So here, if you pull this down, your body tends to go up here.
Right.
Your pelvis cannot really drop and then up here. Only when you let the body drop and then kick, then the body goes down and then go higher.
Right.
Yeah. So because you have an arm dominant swing, you're pulling this hard here, then the body responds like this. Then it's hard to generate that pattern.
Okay.
So you need to have a more stepping-like action here. Swing backswing, step on the right side. Then you will be able to drop the body, and then in the downswing, you're stepping on the left side. It should be more stepping-like action.
Okay.
That's the easiest way to develop good interaction with the ground. Okay? So this has to go this way, and then drop, and then go high up here. And then this green line shows the lateral motion here. So if it's a negative, then it's going in the away direction. And if it's positive, then it's moving toward the target.
And that's the center of my pelvis?
Yeah.
Where it's,
So-
right in the center, okay.
So your pelvis is pretty much here, maintains that position. If you start from here, then it's pretty much maintaining here. Then goes slightly away and then toward here. But this pattern should be more like you come down here a little bit and then go continuously, moving toward. So you're having issue in terms of the pelvis motion. The pelvis motion is a bit unusual. And it's because you want to use your arms here.
Okay.
So then who cares? If your intention is to pull this, then you don't really care here. But in order to use active body-driven swing here, then you have to have a good rhythmic motion. Then you will have good pelvis motion pattern.
Okay.
So basically, your swing is too much arm-driven. Then we have rockets and missiles here, or these big muscles here. Here you just have handguns and simple ones, and then you try to win a war using handguns. It doesn't work.
Right.
That's why your cleaver speed stays around 90 miles per hour.
Okay. Well, it probably the highest it was like 108 to 110 in that range most of the time.
So when you're young, you could generate that using your muscles. But then now you are in your 60s, then you lose the muscle functions. Then you cannot use your muscles actively. Then suddenly you have a decrease in the distance. That's quite common among people in the late 60s and 70s.
Yeah, use your leg.
So that's why you have to develop a motion pattern that uses the whole body here. But with the arms, still you can hit well when you're young.
Right.
And also, as far as the score goes, you can generate good score. Okay? Because in golf swing, distance is not the most important one.
Right. I played at Georgia Tech. One of my teammates was Larry Mize. I'm a little bit older than Larry, but I was kind of average length of good college players or with college players. I definitely wasn't long. I say I was long enough because I was a very good iron player, very accurate iron player. I hit
So you can
13, 14 greens around and was a pretty good player.
you can recover the loss in distance using shorter clubs. But so then score-wise, it's okay. But then if you develop more arm-driven swing, then gradually, or actually at a certain point, suddenly the distance drops quite a bit.
Well, and maybe that was a combination because it definitely was noticeable as the surgeries happened, but maybe they were happening about the time it would have been dropping anyway.
And also, when you use the arm-driven pattern or upper body-driven pattern, then you develop back issues and things like that. Yeah. So it's important to use the lower body well. So because we have all big muscles here.
Besides whatever I did, I loved practicing. I would finish. I play 18 holes walking, and then I'd go to the range and hit balls for 3 hours.
So you use your legs only for walking,
Yeah,
but not during the golf swing.
exactly.
So, and then here's the X factor. Let's see. The X factor is obviously the separation between the hip line and the shoulder line here.
Right.
And then now, as you can see, because your upper body is leaning away,
Which is that the?
this is the shoulder line, this is the hip line,
Okay.
and the angle
Is
between,
that the top graph? Or
yeah, this one here.
Okay.
And then, so it increases and then changes the slope, a little bit. And then between 5 and 6, I don't know whether you can see this, but the 5 and 6 here. 5 is when the pelvis rotation is completed.
Okay.
So 5 is the pelvis transition point. 6 is the club transition point. Between 5 and 6, this is the so-called transition phase. You need to have a longer transition phase.
Okay.
So in order to have a longer transition phase, then your body has to be active in the backswing. So with that, the upper body keep rotating this way. Then now the pelvis slows down and changes direction. Then you have a longer transition phase. While the pelvis is now turning this way, but still your upper body is still rotating in the opposite direction with that natural separation. So between 5 and 6, first the time should be longer, and also during this phase, still you can increase the X factor quite a bit.
Okay.
However, this is almost a flat here, right? That means in the backswing, because you have spinning and then pretty much the arms, using the arms, you are going to this position. So for the shoulder and the hip, you don't have really active rotation like this. So you need to use more momentum-driven backswing here, so that let the body turn here and then change the direction and let it go, instead of doing this. So intentionally lay off this here and then try to pull it down.
Okay.
So you need to have a more continuous motion. Then you have to turn the body, wind up the body well, and then let it go using the wind up, instead of just to go here and then try to pull this down. So whether you start the downswing with the body or the arms, then when you will look at this X factor pattern, it's obvious that you're using this one here. So between the shoulder line and hip line, we don't see much action, because it's a flat. So while you are increasing the backswing speed, but it should be active and using the momentum, let it go all the way here. So let it turn enough. But now, because of your back problem, I don't know how far you can go actually.
I think I can go reasonably far. I still
So
feel like
currently you're not really using this because you're just spinning here and then
Right,
going here,
right.
lifting here. So you're not putting much burden in the back. But when, again, have the image of somebody holding your hairs and then try to turn actively here, let it go, then what it'll do toward the back, you have to actually experiment it. But actually, this is a better way to turn the spine than this one here, something like this. So the X factor shows that your backswing, toward the end of the backswing, you don't have much increase in the X factor. So if you don't have increase, then that means you don't have much X factor stretch. And also your transition phase is a bit short. Now here's the kinematic sequence here. This is basically the angular velocity pattern here. Let me change the range a little bit. This blue line is shoulder line. And then let me change the time scale here. So the red line shows the pelvis motion, pelvis angular velocity in the transition here. The most important sequence is transition phase, transition sequence. We have a backswing sequence here, downswing sequence here, but the most one is the transition sequence. And then the red line is the pelvis. So pelvis transitions here. Green is the thorax. Thorax and pelvis are transitioning almost at the same time. So it's because toward the end of the backswing, the X factor does not increase much. So that means the pelvis and the shoulders are pretty much rotating together as one unit. That's why the X factor does not increase. So when that happens, when you try to go in the opposite direction, they pretty much transition at the same time. So particularly from the pelvis to a thorax, this should be longer. The time difference should be longer. And then currently, overall, the transition phase from 5 to 6, this is short. But you have to elongate the transition phase. That means pelvis transition occurs here. You have well-spaced transitions of the body parts. Finally the club here. Then you have a longer transition phase.
So what, are they at least in the right order as far as pelvis? What's the,
It's hard to reverse the transition phase,
okay,
the transition sequence. Either you transition at the same time or separate, but it's hard to
Do it out of
screw
order.
up the sequence.
okay.
So either you have full sequence, complete sequence, or partial sequence.
So it's,
So this is the pelvis and thorax together.
right,
Then this is the arms, and then the club here.
okay.
But actually, you should have a lot more space between pelvis and the arms here.
Thorax and arms, okay.
Yeah, so you should have probably, if the pelvis goes here, then you have more time and that these will be separated better. But currently, your trunk is pretty much turning at the same time. It's because you're not using the momentum in the backswing here. So what happens is in the backswing here, the red line is again the pelvis. Pelvis peak angular velocity occurs here. From here to 5, this is the backswing, but during the backswing, your pelvis reaches peak angular velocity early on here. This is because of spinning motion.
Okay.
Then it just slows down gradually, and you have a lot of hesitation here. And then thorax the same here. Thorax reaches peak angular velocity here. Your shoulders reach peak angular velocity here. Then the arms and club here. So what we see is that all these peaks are happening quite early in the backswing. It's because you have an initial spinning motion. This gives the peak angular velocity. Then you have slow
Okay.
motion after that. Instead, you have to have a continuous motion or as if you're angry. So initially you can be slow, but then getting faster more toward the end. Then at least the pelvis, the thorax, and the shoulder, these will reach peak around the center here, middle of the backswing. Then the arms will reach peak a bit later. The club will reach peak value a bit later. But because you have early, quick spinning motion at the beginning, and then after that you have just the slow down here. So you have an elongated phase here with the slow motion.
Okay.
That's why your transition phase is problematic here. So you need to have a bit later onset of peak angular velocities by turning correctly instead of spinning early.
Okay.
And then in the downswing, the timing is reasonable here. So this should be okay. And also one thing here, this pink line here,
Okay.
pink line is the
Wrist.
wrist angular velocity.
Okay. And is that,
So when it's a negative, it is cocking.
okay,
When the value is positive, it's uncocking.
okay,
Your uncocking occurs right after top of action. That means it's an early release.
okay,
When you pull this down, then head goes that way. It's natural.
okay.
So you have an early onset of uncocking here.
Because most of the time when I don't do it that often, especially now, but when I've looked at video, it looks like I've got pretty good lag.
So if you look at it in the frontal view,
From face
it
on,
gives you
yeah.
sometimes wrong information.
Okay,
So this should be calculated on the swing plane. So if you have your camera going down this way about 45 degrees here, then you can really see what happens here. Because you are laying off here,
right,
it looks like you keep the club close to the body. But on the swing plane, it's not. You're actually letting it go.
oh, okay,
So that layoff gives you, incorrect information. And then so you are starting the uncocking early, right after the top of action.
Okay.
And then the uncocking angular velocity decreases slightly here, and then increases again. But still, it's classified as early release. You're letting it go early because you're using the arms.
Okay.
When at the beginning, when you use the body, then you can delay the release, but you have early release here.
Okay.
Now, this is elite man's average of maximum wrist angular velocity. You are way below that. Then your club angular velocity
When
way
say
way
wrist
below.
angular, is that, that's not
It's
coordination?
combination of
Combination
this, and then also this here.
of all three of them, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So on the swing plane, the arm here, the arms here, and the club, how the club is moving
Right.
relative to the arms on the swing plane. And then according to that, you're way below here. If you increase this, then this increases. So you're not using your wrist that well. It's because you're letting it go early.
Okay.
And also it's a matter of timing. So even without putting much effort, okay, you hear this whoosh sound. That means I'm intentionally using my wrist and forearm here to generate this motion. You can generate fairly fast motion here. If you time it well and as if you are hitting something here. So, but if you try to pull this down and then your body goes up and then swing like this, you're not really using this here. If your goal is to promote the motion of the end point. So the motion should be more like this instead of you're moving your body, but actually not really helping the motion of the white ball. So your focus should be promoting the motion of the white ball or the end point, right? So you need to increase your wrist angular velocity a lot more so that this can go up here. So that's what I see in the kinematic sequence. And then let's go to how well you use the ground. Let me change the scale a little bit here. So the middle one is the ground reaction force, the force you're getting from the ground. The red line is the total force here, the middle arrow here. Blue is the force acting on the trail side. Green is the force acting on the lead side. Okay? And it starts from one body weight here. So when you are just standing on the ground, then the ground reaction force and your body weight are equal to each other. So the question is whether the ground reaction force is greater than the body weight or less than the body weight. Okay? Now, so this is when you have this peak value here in terms of force. So at this point, you're pushing the ground harder than your body weight. That means you have an you have an active push here. And then most of it is coming from the trail side by using the trail foot here. Lead foot is unloaded here.
And that's all reasonably good.
Yeah, so up to this point it's okay. But you need to increase this a bit more. Have more active push with the trail side. So
on the backside.
Okay. And then, so when you have a good push here, then if after that the ground reaction force becomes equal to your body weight, about here. And then when you pass this point, then your ground reaction force is less than the body weight. So this is the unrating phase. And then you need to have a good continuous unrating. And that the peak unrating has to occur about here, top of backswing here. But in your case, you have an unrating, but unrating is not that active, so
Very much.
small unrating, but it just continues all the way. That this is end of pelvis rotation, this is top of backswing, and then the peak value occurs here. Once you start the downswing, then it reaches the peak unrating, but still this unrating is not much. In other words, you don't have a good interaction with the ground in the vertical direction. If you have active interaction with the vertical direction, it goes higher, and also it goes lower than the body weight more. You have good unrating. But the unrating is not much, and it's kind of elongated here. So you should have a continuous unrating and then reach the peak unrating here. Then you will be able to push the ground well. But this peak force here is not...
No, it's roughly in the right place, it's just not
No,
higher.
no, timing is late.
Timing's late too?
Yeah, the peak should occur about here.
Okay.
So when the club is vertical here. When the center of mass of the body is at low point, here you should have maximum force. And it should be obviously more than that.
Okay.
But the force is not much. And then even the peak force is delayed here, late. So in the downswing, you don't have much, use of the lead
And I
leg.
can feel that. I mean, I never felt like I was pushing hard off with my front leg.
It's because if you pull this down, it's hard to use the lead leg. Because with this, you tend to, your body tends to extend. Then you lose the opportunity. In order to push the ground well, then you must bend the knee first. Before you push, you have bent knee here, then you can push hard. So in the backswing also, if you bend slightly and then push, then you can have more active push here. Push, and then when you drop the body, then the knee is already bent here, so you can easily push it here. But if you go here and then just try to pull this is not doing much. And then the lower one here, the lower graph here, this is called the moment arm, which is basically separation between this arrow and this red dot here. This is the moment arm. So if this is a body of wrench, and then you're pushing this point here. So here's the body of wrench, and you're holding here in the push here. So this distance is the moment arm. So when you multiply the moment arm and the force here, it gives you the torque generated by this force about the center of mass.
I was a structural engineer for a long time.
Ah,
So I know all these
Yeah.
terms.
Yeah.
I had the statics and dynamics and all
But
that
because your force is passing near the center of mass of the body, moment arm is really short. Then the torque becomes small. You need to generate a good amount of torque in the frontal plane. This makes the frontal plane dynamics is very different among golfers. And because your moment arm is relatively short, your torque is also small here. If you don't generate enough torque, then you cannot generate enough angular acceleration. So
And that moment arm increases with more push off the left foot,
no, at this point here, if you want to increase this moment arm,
right?
more than anything, you have to incline the force here. If the force inclines, then this distance increases.
Right.
Without,
So, but what action on my part inclines that force?
so let's say, if you want to generate force going this way here,
Right.
then you need to have more horizontal component, horizontal force. The horizontal force causes horizontal motion, horizontal acceleration, right?
So is that horizontal force off the right
So,
foot?
so in order to generate good horizontal component, then you have to have horizontal acceleration. That means that in the backswing you have active motion away, and with that you are recentering the body.
Okay.
So when you have this motion here, in order to have this motion, you have to push the ground in the lateral direction, right?
Okay.
That means you have a larger horizontal ground reaction force. But if you don't have much or active lateral
Right.
motion here, then you don't have much lateral component. And for your height, you need to probably widen your stance a bit more. So if you feel unstable in terms of moving laterally, then what you can do is you can widen your stance a bit more so that you can actively move the body laterally here. So stepping like action here. With this, have active lateral motion.
So like one thing that I've seen instructors when I've sat in on lessons with some of our players or whatever, you'll see them on a face-on video draw a line down this leg, and they don't really want your hip to cross that line. And that clearly isn't what you think.
Yeah, you wasted your money.
Right. Well, okay. I mean, because
So, I mean, since
they say they want the hip going back and you're loading the hip, not.
no. If your hip
And
goes,
I've watched your videos.
if your hip goes backward, you cannot load to your hip.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know the mechanics. So, in order to generate horizontal force, then you must have horizontal acceleration.
Right.
In other words, you must have horizontal motion, right? In order to interact with the ground well in the vertical direction, then you must have vertical motion. That's as simple as that.
Okay.
So if you want to actively use the ground in the horizontal direction, then you must have horizontal motion. But during the backswing, if you spin and then your pelvis goes that way, your upper body leans this way, then your hip goes backward here, your central mass is not moving that much. Okay? When that happens, you cannot bring it back here.
Right.
You're just staying here and then try to pull this here. But if you go away and then recenter, with the recentering, you have the bonus here, which is a bent knee here. When you have a good recentering, the left knee is already bent, then it's easy to kick. So on one hand, you have to have a good vertical motion, but also need the horizontal motion. But one thing nice about human body is that we have two legs. When we take turns, we can easily generate horizontal motion and also vertical motion. So when you in the backswing, you have to use the right leg, trail leg, to interact with the ground. But if the hip goes backward, then you give up that opportunity. In order to push against something, then you have to really push that direction. But if the hip goes this way, leg is extended, but you cannot push the ground that way because the hip is moving backward.
Right.
So rather, your hip should be on the trail leg here, on the trail foot, and then push, move more upward instead of going backward. This causes a spinning motion.
And how close to straight should your right leg get?
So, if you have to straighten your leg, that's okay.
I mean, people say don't lock your knee, and I've always tried to keep them unlocked. So
Yeah. So when you lock the knee, then actually there's a locking mechanism. So it's not a good idea. So still it should be a little bit bent, and then basically you have active motion, continuous motion here. Then that's okay.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I'm retired now. I've got time, and I've always felt like too many people that were trying to make swing changes try to hit golf balls.
Now,
and they should just be trying to build the neural pathways.
Now let me show you someone else that it will inspire you quite a bit.
Okay.
You both need to watch this. So close this for the moment.
Is that Grant White?
Mm-hmm. So see how different the pattern is between yours and the Grant. Now if you look at this one here, so this is when he has let's go to the first the clever speed. The peak speed occurs here. So from here to here, this is backswing, and this is middle point here. Yeah, it's on the right side here. And the time is similar to yours. Okay. And then go to the front plane action here. So he has a push about here. And then after that, from here, unweighting starts. Unweighting increases continuously all the way to this here. At this point, he has a really long momentum because you see
Right, yeah.
his force is, he has a good unweighting here. The force magnitude is not that large, but it has a large horizontal component here. So it inclines like this, so his momentum is really long here. So he has a large amount of torque at the beginning of the downswing.
Now, was this after working with you?
No, this was 2015 when we initially started. I started working with different people. So at one point we had a bunch of instructors here, so we tried to do the demonstration, and then at that time we captured his swing, and then his swing was already pretty good at that point. So good unweighting here. Because this unweighting, he can push hard here. In order to push hard, you must have a good unweighting. That means you have to drop your body. You have to let your body drop, and then your left knee is bent so that you can push the ground. Okay, so he has a long momentum and then large torque. Yours is about less than half, but he is generating this much torque. This is elite man's average maximum, but he's already generating that much torque at the beginning of the downswing. That means he can actively accelerate early on. Yeah. And then his peak force occurs about here, when the club is vertical here, when the center of mass is at low point here. And then if you look at his pelvis motion, so right turn and the left turn, these are fairly balanced here. Continuous lateral tilt. And then at impact, left side is higher than the right side. This is up and down motion. So gradually lowering the pelvis and then moving it up, it goes above the initial position. If you look at the away toward the motion, it's like away motion up to this point and then recentering here, and then continuous motion toward the target. So his pelvis motion is a lot cleaner because he has more leg-driven, active, body-driven swing here. And then X factor. So this is the end of pelvis rotation or pelvis transition point. This is the top of backswing. You see, still the X factor keeps increasing. Kinematic sequence. So he has a longer transition phase, and these are well spaced sequentially. And then wrist angular velocity. He has more wrist cocking. Wrist cocking velocity increases, and then uncocking starts here when the lead arm is about here. Coming down about here, he starts uncocking. Delayed release here. And then the peak angular velocity of the pelvis is right at the center of the backswing, not early here. The reason why you have early peaks is because you are spinning. Quick early spinning, and then from that point on, slow motion here. But in his case, let's take a look at his stick figure here. So his body is more turning about the spine axis. So this goes high up, and then the trunk is not leaning away.
Right.
And then look at this, from here, unweighting here, and then push. So in order to reprogram the swing, you first have to work on how you interact with the ground, because that's the foundation.
Right.
You have to first work on the foundation and then add these technical things. So you need to use the ground really well here. So this gives a very different pattern here.
you see most amateurs, I mean, consider myself a decent player, but do you see most amateurs not use the ground as much as they should?
Right. Yeah, I should say yes. That's the case.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we have 100%, then typical golfers may use maybe 70%. My subjective assessment, but most people use around 70% of their ability. So depending on the movement pattern, you can change the whole thing. If you change your movement pattern, and you use the lower body better, then it just changes the things completely.
Helps you get in a better position coming in here for attack.
So instead of try to use the upper body, smaller muscles, you have to use the whole body. Okay, so this is something I use as a sort of model pattern. Is it the best player in the world? No, it's not the case. But I see many positive aspects in his swing, in terms of mechanics.
Right.
But still, we do have that, the feel of the golfer,
Well,
the
there's
golfer's
a lot of
ability
other
to
things
control
that go
things,
into
right? Yeah.
producing low scores.
Yeah, and also in
winning.
terms of score, it has multi dimensions. So it's not just about one shot, but you have to have of course management and things like that. So, but I use this as the model.